each candidate. We do have one more. Yes, here we go. So we will be starting with introductions from each candidate of 1 minute, which we'll just be doing in order of last name for the first one, and then we will just kind of start varying those introduction or the answering of questions. Everyone will get 1 minute to answer. And then we will move into having some pre-written questions from our panelists of COPE members who are present, and they'll introduce themselves when they ask their first question. And then we will maintain a couple lightning round questions where the thumbs up, thumbs down, and then we'll pivot to questions that our audience puts in the Q&A. So, and those will just be picked and read by me. So I would say, don't worry about the Q&A, um, and just focus on the questions. 1 minute goes fast. All right. So welcome to all of our candidates. Welcome to those who are in the audience. We are going to be now entering into our mayoral candidate forum. We are going to start with introductions, and we will be starting with Gary Goodweather for 1 minute.
Ready to go? I'm Gary Goodweather. Thank you for having me, and thank you to the educators here tonight for the work that you do every day for our kids and for our city. I want to start by saying this plainly. Strong schools require respected, supported teachers. If we want better outcomes for students, we have to be honest about the conditions that our teachers are working under, including class sizes, staffing shortages, planning time, pay, safety, and a growing list of responsibilities that keep expanding beyond our classroom. I am here to listen first. I know many of you have lived through constant policy shifts, pandemic disruptions, and reforms that were announced about you instead of with you. That erodes trust and it doesn't lead to good results. My belief is simple. Educators must be partners in shaping education policy, not an afterthought. That means investing in retention, professional growth, and school environments that allow teachers and students to learn, especially in communities that have been underserved for far too long. I'm looking forward to hearing from you directly about what's working and what's not.
Thank you. I think we'll next have Robert Gross.
Thank you so very much. My name is Robert Gross, and I am running. I am a product of DCPS. I love my schools, and because I love them, I'm not willing to accept that you are where you are, and that is where you will be. Our system should not have to depend on luck because of where your parents decided to raise you. For too long, the city has been managed by theatrics and not by standards. Teachers are asked to carry impossible loads. Families are having to navigate confusing systems, and students are asked to succeed in systems that didn't account for their growth. This is not a people problem. This is not a parent problem. This is a leadership problem. As mayor, I would define the job, I will measure the job, and I will enforce the outcomes with full respect for our educators, for our parents, for ourselves, with zero tolerance towards systematic or institutional shifts, complacency, or any of the other.
Thank you.
I've always loved this city, and I'll continue to fight for it as much as I can.
Thank you. And finally, Janice Lewis-George.
Thank you. Good evening, Washington Teachers Union, to all the educators. My name is Janice Lewis-George. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian, a proud daughter of the district, but more importantly, a proud graduate of DC Public Schools, graduating from Rudolph Elementary, Deal, as well as School Without Walls. I would not be where I'm today without my teachers, and I wouldn't be where I am as Ward 4 council member without the Washington Teachers Union and their constant support and work. As mayor, I'm going to drive strong neighborhood schools and student achievement by focusing on increasing our teacher retention and our teacher diversity, a fair and equitable bargaining system, replacing a punitive evaluation system, investing in teacher wellness, building and maintaining safe and workable facilities through modernization and small capital projects, and equitable, timely, and transparent school funding, as well as sufficient complementary staff for our like nurses, psychologists, and social workers, and incentives for workforce housing and student loan forgiveness. I'm going to show up for Washington Teachers Union as I have as Ward 4 council member and continue to have a strong relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to our panel, starting with Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Donaldson. I am a Spanish teacher and the WTU building rep at Allendale Middle School. My question for you all is, WTU members continue to experience DCPS violations of planning time, student-to-teacher ratios, and other contractual protections. As mayor, what specific enforcement mechanism will you use when DCPS or individual principals and instructional superintendents violate the WTU contract? And what happens if the violations persist?
And we'll start with Robert Gross. Thank you.
Thank you. Things change throughout the year, regardless. Where the systems break during mid-year mobility, when funding is lagged, or when staffing is minimal. These happen purely because of locked budgets, because of compliance errors, and because of accountability gaps between central office and the schools. Central office is run completely by or answers to the mayor, which means that at the end of the day, it's my job to make sure that all of these issues are being enforced, to make sure that what you expect to happen happens for your school just as much as what I expect from the leaders I put in place to happen to our schools. The enforcement comes from me being attentive, me being aware that we all have our own lives, we all have our own difficulties, and that at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we put our children, our educators, and our institutions at the top of the line. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Janice Lewis-George.
Thank you. You know, for me, leadership starts at the top, and the mayor sets the tone for labor relations. I am with you as teachers union and will insist on a new kind of collaboration between the mayor and DC government workers. I have zero tolerance for abuses and violations of collective bargaining agreements, and I have zero tolerance for allowing negotiations to take an arduous amount of time and not getting the best and making sure that we are collaborating in the best way possible. And so what would happen is setting in the outset what the negotiations will look like in the terms of negotiation, and standing by those terms and ensuring that anyone who is not meeting those terms are found accountable by myself as the mayor and the executive, as well as the deputy mayor of education and the chancellor of BC Public Schools.
Thank you. Very good one.
Right now, policies are siloed without a plan to execute on initiatives, and that includes enforcement. And what we propose is to create an enforcement system, an accountability system collaboratively with Washington Teachers Union to ensure that we put a system in place up front so that everybody understands what needs to be done and the standards that need to be held to before we proceed. And we propose doing that within our first 100 days in office.
Hello, my name is Chantal Fuller, and I am a teacher in Ward 4 and a resident of Ward 8. As a mayor, you will inherit the current chancellor. Do you plan to keep the current chancellor? If yes, what specific changes would you require to ensure compliance with WTU contracts, budget transparency, and staffing stability? If not, do you commit to following the law and consulting with the WTU in evaluating or selecting the next chancellor? And I believe we start with the council member.
Yes, I think it's a great question. I've worked with the current chancellor for a number of years on a number of issues. I do think that moving forward under a new administration, that there would need to be a new chancellor, and in doing so, I would work collaboratively and in guidance with the law with the Washington Teachers Union as we actually talk about what chancellor we need in our future. And so, yes, would be in compliance and working with whether you want to do both a nationwide search, but also an internal search. We have so much great leadership already within DC public schools and so many great educators and leaders now. So for me, I think the path forward would be, as we evaluate, coming up with a new chancellor and working with you all to figure out who that is for the future of education and teaching in the District of Columbia.
Thank you. Mr. Gross?
Thank you, ma'am. I believe that the chancellor hasn't done a bad job. Through hopefully in-person communications, we can figure out whether or not she would stay on. If not, we would go about the process to find a new chancellor with respect and with clarity of what is needed for the new chancellor's position. I think the teachers union requires an executive partner who truly understands the job. When leadership is vague, everything becomes a struggle to figure out through the murkiness. My administration plans to negotiate, to implement, and to remove systematic burdens that have been set in place well before my birth. Collective bargaining only works with an executive branch that actually governs. Together with the chancellor, we can truly figure out what is needed for the city or what is needed for each ward within each, what is needed for each school within each ward, and to figure out intricately the individual
Thank you.
issues within them. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Goodwin?
Sorry, am I ready to go?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought you heard me.
To maintain continuity, I would put the chancellor. We're going to maintain the chancellor on a conditional basis. As we work through our first 100 days in office, we're going to again work collaboratively with WTU and all the stakeholders to set the standards and what the job expectations are of the chancellor, whether it is the current one or we collaboratively look and evaluate a new one.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's me again. Um, we heard a little bit about this earlier in some of your opening statements. You've all said that you support repealing DC Code 1-617.18 so WTU can negotiate the evaluation system. What is the single biggest obstacle to making that happen in your first year in office, and what would you do to remove it? And I think this goes to Laura, can you help me? I think this goes to
I
Gary.
think we start with Gary. Thank
So Ashley, I conditionally said that we would repeal the code because in my experience, what I don't want to do is repeal a code without something else in place, without a system in place that is executable. And this is where we are going to engage and we propose having WTU as a partner in this process to create a new system for funding, for evaluations, so that that we are putting a plan into place up front as compared to putting something into place that we don't agree on and we can actually execute on.
Thank you. Robert Gross.
Thank you, sir. So I've been in IT a good portion of my career, and I've been the sole person for a lot of different companies' headquarters and whatnot. So I've realized that through that, I've made my own rules a lot. I've been the sole decider for a lot of the things that have happened for an entire company's technical expertise. I realized that the best way to know what you need or what you can do is to have somebody in the room who has done the job, be able to understand this is what we need to be able to do. With the current unclear mandates, the shifting metrics, with the understaffed classrooms, it's hard for you all to be able to do this. You require a seat at the table just as much as it is something that you deserve. Um, as mayor, I want to reorganize how we structure ourselves and how we structure our accountability towards what you need. And
Thank you.
together, hopefully, we can do that.
Thank you.
Janice Lewis George.
Thank you. Yes, I've been consistently for a number of years, criticizing the impact system, and I still feel strongly that the impact system is not the right direction. And in fact, the person who created impact did not even use impact when they became a leader in a jurisdiction. So here's what I think. I think first and foremost, during transition, I would work already with the chancellor to work with the council and the Washington Teachers Union to learn about systems that are effective in other jurisdictions so that we can settle on one to use here. I will balance that with making sure that we successfully retain teachers who are able to make the biggest impact on their student lives. I think the WTU should have the right to negotiate such a fundamental part of its members' working conditions and develop a collaborative evaluation system designed to develop individuals' practice rather than punish them.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next question is, WTU has repeatedly experienced delayed bargaining, procedural stalling, and agency refusal to meaningfully engage under the guise of managerial rights. And last year, the Public Employee Relations Board determined that DCPS did not negotiate in good faith with WTU in its last round of negotiations. As mayor, how would you ensure DCPS and OLRCB bargain in good faith, both legally and substantively? And I believe we start with the council member.
Yes. So listen, I was frustrated. I publicly spoke out to the last minute, sent joint letters saying you guys need to be bargaining in good faith with WTU. And I believe that strongly. I believe DCPS, and it starts with leadership, and DCPS can do much more to ensure that the collective bargaining agreement is enforced. In particular, educators have far too little planning time, and we must ensure the planning time is protected and not consistently taken away as educators are pushed into additional meetings or filling in for colleagues. Ensuring all schools have full-time building substitutes will also ease the burden. And as we talked about already, reevaluating the impact evaluation. And so for me, it's about leadership. It starts at the top, having, as soon as we finish negotiations, getting back in that room and being ready to go so that we can do this on time, and so that our educators really can see a difference in how the DC Public Schools show up for them and show up with them to improve educators.
Thank you, Mr. Goodweather.
I want to reemphasize the pillars of our campaign, which is creativity, collaboration, empathy, and execution. What we propose is quarterly meetings with WTU to ensure an alignment of objectives and ensure better collaboration. I firmly believe that bringing the people closest to the work into the decision-making process leads to better policies, stronger execution, and more effective use of resources.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Gross.
Thank you, ma'am. I believe that if a policy does not improve the well-being of those that are involved within it, then it shouldn't have come into power in the first place. What we can see is that good faith doesn't solve lack of forethought. It does not solve The fact that when it gets to the teachers, it's not as much as this was promised. Um, the negotiations are the most important part of, I believe, any real true binding. And we can see that those are what failed, not necessarily the outcome from it. We are not giving each other enough of a credit to recognize not only educational burdens that we are going through, but the burdens within the entire city, whether it's your housing, whether it's your transportation to get to your work or not. Everything has to do, or everything is combined together with your livelihood.
Thank
If
you.
it's not something that is able to show up and actually show you that it is an improvement, it needs to be reworked on and
Thank you.
re-analyzed.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Bertocchi, and I am a first grade teacher at Harriet Tubman Elementary School in Ward 1. And my question for all of you is, in many schools, DCPS is disbanding our self-contained special education classrooms and making other special education policy decisions without any clearly articulated plan or reasoning. What will you do to ensure that educators have the training and support that they need and that students get the support that they need to ensure that their IEP needs are being fairly assessed and met? And I believe we're starting with Mr. Goodweather.
First of all, we've experienced this where DCPS was not able to accommodate my children's needs, and we were fortunate enough to actually be able to get a slot at lab school after spending significant amount of money to have a neuropsychological exam, and a lot of our friends had to sue DCPS to be able to either get those services or to be able to get admission, pay for admission somewhere else. So what we're going to do is we are going to ensure that there is funding for every student that is needed, that regardless of your financial situation, that there is money to be able to hire special educators, learning specialists for every student. It is a priority. And I'll say about 17% of DCPS students indicate that they have learning disability difference.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
Thank you. I believe it's neglect, lag, and misalignment that are our enemies. Not the teachers, not the staff, and not any of the number of men and women who are serving at central office. I believe with better control over the metrics, creating dashboards, and potentially an early warning indicator to just see where our schools lack before they are affecting our children. Um, Students can thrive via their company stability, and allowing every school to plan with real-time data will do nothing but reduce latency, increase responsiveness, and allow us to see the problems that are occurring in our individual schools at the same time, rather than us seeing them only after they've passed and have affected our schools in a negative way. Growing up in the schools, I can think of a number of classes that I've enjoyed that are been taken away, and so forth and so forth. We
Thank you.
need things specifically for the individual student. Thank you. And
Thank you.
that's it.
Thank you for that answer. And Councilmember Lewis George. You are muted.
Sorry. As a former assistant attorney general and someone who also spent time working within OSSI, I know firsthand that our inequities of our current efforts to support students with special needs. Families that could afford to get extra attorneys got better support built into their IEPs and were more likely to get publicly financed private school placements, while other students were left behind. And it is my role, I believe, as mayor to ensure every student gets what they need to thrive academically and developmentally in school, and that more students are able to learn in the classroom. So that's more support for our teachers, more training in class and support. And that also means someone actually focusing on our students with special needs and how our city can do a better job at providing for those students instead of paying for out-of-time school placements. I think that is critical and something that we have to focus ourselves on, and being able to address and meet the needs of our students and their individualized education plans.
Thank you all very much.
Ready? Good evening. I am Rebecca Christian. I am a reading specialist at Langley Elementary School. And our question for you is, DCPS has bottlenecked the grievance process, making it difficult to advance issues through DCPS's Office of Labor Management and Employee Relations, causing years' worth of cases to languish for years and requiring the WTU to go through a more expensive arbitration process. What will you do to improve the grievance process for when WTU and other unions have to enforce their contract? Not sure where we are with the people.
I think we're with Janice.
Thank you for that question. You know what? Again, this is where it starts at the top. Leadership, it starts at the top, and creating a system, a new culture, and new systems and processes in place to ensure that. That also means making sure that you have good people who understand labor relations. My plan is to have it within my transition committee and have good people from labor in my administration to ensure that we are adhering to the highest labor relations. We have to create a new process because the old process didn't work, but we also have to change the culture. Adversarial approaches are bad for teachers, they're bad for parents, they're bad for students, and they're bad for everyone. We have to realize that we're not adversaries, but we are partners, and that the more that we are able to get on the same page, the better we are able to drive student achievement, which is all of our goals. And so for me, it's a change of the process, a change of the culture, and a change in leadership, but also having labor within my administration to ensure that that's the way we are going to operate as an administration and as an executive as we move forward in our relations.
Thank you. Who's next?
I believe Gary will be next.
We are all focused on the same goal, which is improving outcomes for our students. And we work with WTU to create a system that has real accountability and real recourse to ensure that when violations are reported, that they are acted upon, and that there's a system in place to ensure that there is remediation to be able to address the grievance in a way that is effective for at every level.
Thank you. And Robert.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, the ability to have real-time data and see the issues that are prevalent to our educators is important. One of the first things I want to do is establish core metrics that can be measured within relation to your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and financial health to assist with teacher burnout, excess class sizes, lesson plan delays, teacher-student relationships, overall school health. I think that this is not just a singular issue within our education. This is an issue within the entire city. This is the burdens of a parent. This is the burdens of a guardian. This is things that as a burdens of an educator. These are things that are on our minds that we didn't realize until we got into the job or got into the situation for it. These are things that through listening to our communities, we can figure out ways around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move to a few lightning round questions. They're just going to be a thumbs up, thumbs down situation that will be coming from me. So our first lightning round question here is, will you immediately support and or sign legislation to advance a green card pathway for international educators if one is not in place already? All right, and just Robert, I don't know if you have a thumbs up or thumbs down for us. Oh, perfect. Next question. Will you make compliance with the W-2 contract a non-negotiable performance expectation for a chancellor? This, will you make compliance with a W-2 contract a non-negotiable performance expectation? Got a middle? Robert, do you have a thumbs up or thumbs
Oh,
down for
yes.
us? Oh, thank you. And finally, would you direct OLRCB to adopt clear bargaining timelines, enforceable good faith standards, and penalties specifically designed to prevent delay tactics and address agencies that refuse to bargain in good faith? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Perfect. Thank you, thank you. We're going to pivot for our final couple questions here to some audience questions. Let's see. So we have, I'm going to start with one that we asked the Ward 1 candidates as well. So this is from James Crusoe, one of our W2 members. What are your thoughts on the overtesting of students in DC, and would you advocate for more time to be spent on lessons and actual teaching and less time on testing? And instead of advocate, would you change it? Because you will be a mayoral control situation. And I believe we're starting with Gary.
First of all, just the time that we spend testing our students, I think that it matters when with what you do with the testing data, right? And if you're using it in a way that is meaningful, and then you can use it to be able to improve outcomes, then that's important. But we have been focused on the wrong outcomes in Washington, D.C. And I think that being able to put more resources to the teachers, to the schools, to be able to and allow teachers and educators to spend time and resources in the way that they think is best for the students is important.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Robert.
I believe that this equality does not equal uniformity. The amount of testing that our students go through for every single ward is, I mean, from someone who was definitely in it, coming through No Child Left Behind, it is a lot to go through, to have to recognize, to have to put your self-worth to a letter. This administration believes that your thought process, your mental health when it comes to, or the child's mental health when they come to school is just as equally important as what number they got on that test that week. I believe that with a proper structuring of mentorships, with like rec center staffing, being able to put these kids in other programs to increase their productivity, it can match what is potentially left behind from the amount of testing that we do for them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Janice.
Yeah. As a DCPS student who grew up taking the Stanford 9 and being inundated with Stanford 9 preparation and then post Stanford 9, and just being a Black person who understands the bias, implicit bias that is results in a lot of testing. Test prep and testing do not only take away from learning, but make school less engaging. And so it also increases absenteeism. As mayor, I absolutely want to look at the system that we currently have, and look at a way that we will not be reliant on just testing alone and have a focus on that and allow teachers the ability to be able to teach in different ways. I'm a student who went to school without walls, so I believe learning happens inside and outside the classroom, and that's the best teacher. I think it's important to assess learning and teaching, but I don't think we have the right balance now, and I think we can do better by listening to our teachers and coming up with a way for us to do that, assess our learning, but also make sure teachers have time to actually teach and students can learn.
Thank you. I think we can take at least two more. So we have one from Annie David. Members of the WTU include not only teachers, but school social workers, school psychologists, and school counselors. How will you work to ensure that students' emotional needs are met while alleviating the caseloads, burnout, and turnover of workers in these positions? And we'll start with Robert.
Thank you so very much. I've been mentioning this whole time, but our students' mental health is very important. Um, but as much as our students' mental health, it is also our educators' mental health. The turnover rate is exceptionally high here in the city. I through all this research, it's like a good quarter of our teachers who are starting out, the first 1 to 3, 4 years are the biggest amount of turnover rates, which means they don't feel as though what they are doing matters to them to the amount that they should. I believe that with adequate mentorship and guidance for our educators just as much as for our students, we can bridge that gap between the two and allow these teacher-student relationships to prosper just as much as a parent and student and so forth and so forth. If we can work together and understand that high mobility schools are just as needed as low mobility, we can move forward.
Thank you. Janice.
Yeah, one of the greatest tenets of my platform is on ensuring that we have sufficient complementary staff to our teachers. What I hear the most is teachers want a school that has a nurse full time, want school psychologists and social workers, and those school psychologists and social workers want to have actual caseloads that they can actually maintain, which means we have to deal with the pipeline issue. And so as mayor, I'm going to work with our universities and work with our DC public schools and our students to create a pipeline that allows our students to go into paraprofessional careers, to be able to get educated at UDC and surrounding schools in being a social worker, in being a nurse, in being a school psychologist, to end barriers to entry into those fields and allow us to create that. So my goal is to actually create the pipeline and focus on incentives like workforce housing, student loan forgiveness, and supports to be able to get more people into those fields, so that the excuse that we don't have the pipeline is not the excuse that is made to make sure our schools are not adequately staffed and our students are not adequately supported. It is one of the main things that I want to lead on and will lead on as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gary.
I want to stress this because I'm passionate about it. Mental health is health. And that goes to our students, to our teachers. And I want to ensure that every student, every family, every DC resident has access to mental health professionals. The guards of retention, the other than relocation outside the DC area, the number one reason on DCPS surveys for why educators left was because of work-life balance. And this is where we have actionable ways to improve the quality of life in DC by wraparound services for educators, for mental health professionals. And in terms of a pipeline, this is where our Capital Corps is going to create a pipeline and lifelong skills, to be able to lifelong prosperity for all professionals.
Thank you. We'll take one more from our audience, and then we'll move to our closing statements. This is from Paige Felice Gilbert. Over the past several years, the district has seen dramatic changes in tax revenue due to remote work and reductions in the federal workforce. Given these challenges, How will you ensure stable funding for schools? And we'll start with Janice.
Thank you. As you know, the back and forth around school budgeting has been something that the council has worked on back and forth. Here's what I know. We have the ability for us to budget our schools in a way that ensures that our schools get the funding that they need, that they don't have to rely on council members piecemealing and putting together budgets that don't represent the needs of a school. And we have to address the fact that schools get an influx, especially DC public schools get an influx of students without the adequate funding to support that. So I would be working with the council and working with teachers to come up with a budgeting system that actually works for our students. My values are clear. We must invest in our young people. It's a non-negotiable. And we've had to make tough votes to increase revenue. Education has to be and still will be the number one thing that we need to fund as a district. And having a budgeting system within schools and allowing time for the schools to digest budgets and give recommendations is something that also will be a priority for me as mayor.
Thank you. Gary.
We spend more per student than any jurisdiction in the country when you take into account both the operating budget and the capital budget, and with some of the worst long-term outcomes. It is important that we allocate the dollars that we have, and we are headed into a time where we are going to have declining tax revenue. The CFO has been clear about that. What is important is that we work with WTO and all the stakeholders to ensure that the way that we use the dollars and we create a funding model together to be able to put more money directly to teachers, directly to educators, and that we do it upfront during first 100 days in office to ensure that it is executable.
Mhm.
Thank you. And Robert.
Thank you. What I'm hearing is frustration, and it's not absent. It's not abstract. It's real. Um, the mayor is the only official who can align agencies and enforce compliance. I will use that authority. I created what I call a human life standard. I say that every principle and every decision that our government makes should improve the quality of life of the citizens who are living in this city. The next mayor will decide whether or not the city's education continues to drift or that it finally stabilizes. I'm not running to manage decline more politely. I'm running to define the job, to protect educators from institutional chaos, and to give families a chance with a system that they can trust. If a policy does not improve at least one outcome without harming another, it doesn't pass. Leadership isn't about intentions, it's about enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to move to our closing statements. You'll each just get 1 minute to make your final case to our WTU members, the public at large, about why we should be supporting you in this mayoral race. And we will be starting with Gary.
I believe teachers are professionals, and policy works best when the people doing the work are engaged every day. I've spent the past 30 years collaborating, leading, developing, and most importantly, executing on solutions. My platform is based upon education, safety, prosperity, ESP. I always start with education as it is the foundation for progress. That means respecting collective bargaining, focusing on retention and working conditions, and removing unnecessary bureaucracy. It also means addressing real pressures teachers face outside the classroom, housing affordability, staffing shortages, and increasing demands placed on schools to solve everyday challenges. I may not have all the answers, but I'm committed to listening, to partnering with WTO, and making decisions with educators and not about them. I appreciate the chance to be able to hear more directly from you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Robert.
Thank you again for this time. Growing up here in this city, it feels like a fever dream to even have the opportunity to put myself in this position. For too long, I believe the job of the government hasn't been defined, measured, or enforced. Um, we see good people struggling to live inside a system that wasn't necessarily meant to support them. Washington, D.C. is a city within federal land, and it shows. My campaign is built around this doctrine to say our government should judge and be judged by how well it can actually benefit the people, um, not by budgets, press releases, or ribbon cutting. Schools that support communities, city streets that are safe and feel trusted to be on. Our government that works to improve your life is a government that I want to be the leadership of. I believe that together we can build a city that will flourish from the roots. I say not for profit, for purpose, because I truly believe together we can build and create the purpose within ourselves for our betterment of our society. So thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate being here and have a great, wonderful night.
Thank you very much. And Janice.
I fight for DC public school teachers because DC public school teachers fought for me. They grew me. They are the reason I am where I am today. And that's why when I made a pledge to Washington Teachers Union years ago, when I ran that I was going to stick by teachers, I made sure that every year in the council I did so, whether it was fighting to make sure we funded every librarian in school, whether it was passing digital equity to make sure our students had the adequate supplies, whether it was enforcing and passing safe routes to school to make sure our students' seats were safe, whether it was fighting every day as facilities chair to go to schools and be there till 11 o'clock at night until HVAC systems were working. I've never been afraid to be on the ground and fighting alongside our teachers union because I know that doing so will improve student outcomes. I have a plan as mayor to work with you, to work alongside you so that we can improve student outcomes, to address teacher retention, to address the evaluation system that is outdated and punitive, to make sure that we invest in teacher wellness and teacher diversity, and to do so much more around our facilities and making sure they're there. I believe in Washington Teachers Union and I believe in the future of education, and I need you in this fight with me. Please, Washington Teachers Union, get in this fight so we can win a future for all of DC. Thank you.
Thank you. So a few just kind of wrapping up. WT members, don't go anywhere because we do have a post conversation for you. So don't leave, attendees, because we're going to start promoting you to panelists if you are a WT member. So our process, the way it works, the committee that we're hosting this forum here, we're going to convene W2 members who want to be a part of a discussion to recommend to our representative assembly who we believe should be endorsed, but ultimately the representative assembly will make that final decision, and they could change it. So we'll know more in the future, kind of how our elected representatives are feeling from our schools, and we will then communicate what we find out at that meeting. For those of you who are WT members, it might take us a little bit to make sure we're kind of parsing, making sure we get all the right people, but we will start promoting you to panelists. So just stick around as we do that transition. But thank you so much for your time. We do truly appreciate it. We appreciate the time you put into our questionnaires. We could tell that it was very thoughtful responses from all of our candidates here. And we definitely look forward to working with you all no matter what moving forward. You're going to be elected as our benevolent dictator for a period of time, and hopefully, changing that as time goes on so we don't need a benevolent dictator anymore and we can move towards democratically run public education system. But we do appreciate your time. This is a super important time for our district as we look at new leadership. So thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
Robert, did you do DC Youth in Government? And when?
I did YAG and I did 2 years of Kona. I did it in what was it, 2014
Yeah,
and
I knew it.
2015? Yeah.
I had students there. Sorry,
Listen,
that's just
Man, I still have my if I find it, I still have my little
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
lanyard. And
Very
it's
nice.
got all of my
Very
little
nice.
pins on it, man. I love this thing. I yeah,
Like
it's
I
it's a big
recognize, I
part
mean,
of the
you're never
city.
my student, but I recognize the DC Youth and Government crew from
Yes, ma'am.
attending those events. So very good. Well, thank you so much. And we are going to start our
Yeah.
transition, so we do appreciate it. Apologize for a little side tangent
It's
there, but
all
it's always
good.
nice to see
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Thank you.